Good morning, Your Excellencies, Presidents, Mr. President of the European Academy of Sciences and Arts, ladies and gentlemen. This conference is very important in the time when the presidency of the Council of the EU is for the first time held by the Slovak Republic, and there is the opportunity to prove and show that new, smaller countries who joined the EU in the last wave can show their positive about what about are these states, what is their potential and possibilities, and they can direct and they can try to solve the problems and issues which are also discussed at this conference. Yes, I agree that Europe faces one of the most serious crises probably since the Second World War. The crisis is not only economic, but political and cultural as well. However, Europe cannot become a strong global player only based on the economic power. Europe in the future has to take into consideration its size and its cultural, historical, and scientific potential. It should become a more important global player. We have, over the last 10 to 15 years, we have a different Europe. On one hand, it has been enlarged with the countries of the South, East and Central Europe, and on the other hand, it has to deal with the challenges of its diversity and rapidly changing social and demographic characteristics. These facts seem to be impulsive to ask ourselves how to create the environment where European citizens communicate, so that the citizens of the Europe can communicate better, so that they are more trustworthy, they should trust themselves, and they should understand, so that they are not afraid to live in these multicultural surroundings and the world that we are surrounded by. One of the civilization indicators, which is one of the most important values in Europe, should not only be looking at the industrial development and material wealth, size of the cities and investments, but also an intellectual development, talent, deep roots, culture development, which are the values developed in all the EU countries every day. I'm convinced that only based on the everyday humanism and based on education, better recognition of values known to every individual European country with its rich and cultural heritage, the future of our Europe will be meaningful for their citizens. Over the last tens of years or decades, we ask ourselves whether we were prepared to keep the most important of our experiences of the European civilization, which enriched the world many times in the history, but to create good conditions for future generations in diverse multicultural Europe. We should make them feel secure, not to be afraid that in the future there will be no job opportunities or pensions. 27 years after the fall of the Iron Curtain, we should not create barriers among European citizens or support the idea of multi-speed Europe. We cannot be uncertain or tired of future enlargement of the EU. This cannot happen. We need not only to think about it, because the last results of the European Parliament elections proved that we have to do our best immediately and to act. Trust among citizens is the key factor to create sustainable development and positive energy. But the trust can be created only when we get to know each other on the cultural and scientific level. Many times in the history, bridges were built between various generations, states, or continents. The biggest bridge is connected on the traditions, culture, and knowledge which we should have and analyze from the past, from the recent years of our common Europe after 1989. I think, and in my understanding, every European country has to be in the whole of Europe. I appreciate that Mr. President Walesa mentioned that Europe is for everyone and we have to do so that the basic principles should be maintained. And we should be also additional active participants in its creation. I come back to the idea from the point of view of non-material, intangible cultural heritage, which is the base of identity, prosperity, and development. In 2003, the General Conference of UNESCO, the biggest organization for science, culture, and education, had results so that it approved convention for the safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage in the world. Intangible cultural heritage of different generations is the base of the wealth, not only in individual societies and nations, but it is the key to respect, understand, and have non-conflict cooperation between the nations. I'm talking about it again because many European countries, including Bulgaria, in 2009, in 2006, accepted the convention as a basis for further development and stability in the region where the country belongs. I mention it also because in 2010, in Paris, an agreement was signed between UNESCO and the Bulgarian government about creation of regional center for safeguarding of the intangible cultural heritage in southeastern Europe. And today the regional center includes 15 states: Albania, Armenia, Macedonia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Georgia, Greece, Cyprus, Moldova, Romania, Slovenia, Serbia, Turkey, Croatia, Montenegro. It is one of the many examples which help us better understand that we need not only on the regional level in Europe, but also we should focus and build values of New Europe on mutual understanding, building the bridges, and on protection of not only borders that we know were destroyed because states were joined together in Schengen, but to protect the cultural and historical borders. But we have to develop in the intercultural dialogue in Europe because, as it was said before, yes, we have to make a lot of effort to make the East and West, these processes of getting to know each other and trust should be created as much as possible. As a representative of the country after 1989, I can say that all my fellow citizens were happy to become the members of the big European family. They started not only to gain their knowledge, to get trained and to travel, but they wanted to bring and want to bring to the other European regions part of them, which is very beneficial. Otherwise, Europe would be a very boring place to live in. I think that the UNESCO Convention for the Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage challenges us all. I think, or in my opinion, not only on the level of the higher education institutions, scientific institutions, state government or regional government, but most of all, we have to start creating more knowledge, more trust, which should start on the secondary education. These are the bases which will help us. The borders have been now open for 27 years. Do we know each other well as we think we do? Is the development of tourism and business relations enough? As I see it, we owe a lot to a young generation. We need to make all the European countries and cultures available for the younger generation from the beginning of the educational process. Europe has some specific cultures. Therefore, I appreciate that in 2015, the European Commission in June accepted this as one of the 4 goals that were created by 2020 to create integrated strategy for cultural heritage. I believe we need to focus not only on material wealth. We have our tasks as each state, but we have to focus on intangible spiritual heritage. Therefore, I think that the support of the European Commission and some other financial support from various projects of Horizon 2020 or from the European Regional Development Fund, these should be invested into necessary inevitable beginning of education of future European generation. So we will be at least a little more relaxed, that the solidarity that we are talking about, the trust between nations and the understanding will get slightly better. I believe this will happen and I am ready to work for it. I think that not only the European Academy of Sciences and Arts, but also Danube Academy of Sciences are very good move to start with. Thank you.